All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're heading out on the epic quest of global expansion for businesses. We're looking at topic 3.1.3, international marketing, specifically for A-level business. If you've ever wondered how local companies transform into massive global juggernauts, or why some just fail spectacularly when they cross borders, well, you're in the right place. We're going to break down the strategies, the hurdles, and the ultimate payoffs of taking a brand worldwide. So here's the big question. What actually happens when your domestic market is, well, simply not enough anymore? Imagine you've totally saturated your home country. Literally everyone who wants your product already has it. When domestic growth stalls out and the threat of strategic drift starts looming, where a business's strategy just doesn't fit its changing environment anymore, a business absolutely must look beyond its borders. It isn't just about ambition. Honestly, it's often about pure survival and finding entirely new avenues to thrive. Here is our roadmap for today. First, why go global? Second, market entry strategies. Third, overcoming global challenges. Fourth, the power of globalization. And finally, A-level assessment tasks. Let's get moving. Section 1. Why go global? The strategic purpose and value. Let's look at the call to adventure and why a business leaves its comfortable home market. The core drivers behind international marketing aren't just for vanity or grabbing bragging rights. They're fundamentally driven by a need for sustainable growth and maintaining a fierce competitive edge. Expanding lets a business achieve serious growth and boost its overall competitiveness against rivals. It also brilliantly allows a company to extend the product life cycle. Think about it. If a product is in the decline phase at home, it might actually be in the introduction or growth phase in a brand new market abroad. Plus, you get to spread your economic risk. If one region faces a sudden economic downturn, a booming market somewhere else can keep the entire company completely stable. Section 2. Market entry strategies. The specific ways to enter new markets. Once a business decides to expand, they have to figure out exactly how they're going to cross that border. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation. Notice the escalation of risk and control here. Step 1 is exporting, producing goods at home and selling them abroad. That's your lowest commitment and relatively low risk. Step 2 is licensing, where you grant a foreign entity the right to use your intellectual property for a fee. Step 3 introduces joint ventures. And finally, Step 4 is the massive leap to direct investment, where a company actually acquires or builds physical facilities in that foreign country. It's the highest risk by far, but it offers the ultimate control over operations. Let's zoom in on joint ventures for a second. This is a business partnership between two or more entities, usually from different countries, collaborating on a specific project. What's really fascinating here is how these act as a strategic bridge. They allow a business to share the massive financial risks of entering a new country while instantly tapping into the vital local expertise of a foreign partner. You get all that local knowledge of the culture and regulations without having to learn it the hard way. It's a real game changer. Section 3. Overcoming global challenges and navigating those complex barriers. Of course, this international road is completely filled with trials. Let's break down the main factors that can threaten global operations. First up, cultural challenges. We're talking differing consumer values, languages, and social behaviors that can totally alter how a product is received. Then, legal challenges, like complex trade regulations, protectionism, tariffs, and quotas that governments use to protect their local industries. We also have economic challenges. Businesses have to deal with shifting exchange rates that can suddenly make exports incredibly expensive, alongside unpredictable inflation and varying income elasticity of demand. And finally, competitive challenges, dealing with fierce local rivalries and having to defend your market positioning against entrenched homegrown brands. Let's put this into practice with Task 1, hitting those AO3 analysis skills. How do cultural barriers actually impact costs? Well, think about it logically. If consumer values or languages differ wildly in a new market, a business can't just copy and paste its home marketing campaign. No way. They are forced to adapt. They might have to hire local agencies, conduct fresh market research, maybe alter the product packaging entirely, or run completely new advertising. All of this translates into a much higher required marketing spend, which directly impacts the business's overall profitability. Moving right along to Section 4, the power of glocalization. Balancing the global and the local. To conquer those cultural and economic monsters we just talked about, businesses rely on a really clever strategy called glocalization. This is the adaptation of global products or services to local markets. It's all about finding that perfect sweet spot between global standardization and local customization. You want to maintain a globally recognizable brand. Think of the distinctive logo of a massive fast food chain, while tailoring the specific offering, like the actual menu items, to fit local cultural tastes and consumer values perfectly. This leads us to the ultimate tactical choice facing international marketers. Do you use a standardized marketing mix, essentially selling the exact same product globally to save on economies of scale and keep costs rock bottom? Or do you go with an adapted marketing mix where you alter your price, your product features, your place of distribution, and your promotional messages to truly fit the local customer? Adaptation definitely costs more upfront, but it very often yields a much higher market share in the long run. Let's try this out with Task 2, focusing on your AO2 application skills. How would you adapt the mix for an emerging market? Imagine taking a premium, high-priced brand into an economy that's growing incredibly fast but has lower average consumer incomes. You might need to adapt the price by offering smaller, more affordable product sizes, maybe utilizing penetration pricing or dynamic pricing. For promotion, instead of wildly expensive television ads, you might pivot entirely to a digital strategy, using social media campaigns and local influencers who are highly engaged with the younger demographics that are so typical of emerging markets. Section 5, A-level assessment tasks. Honing those crucial AO4 evaluation skills? Let's bring all this fantastic theory back to the ultimate test, your A-level syllabus requirements. For Task 3, we are directly pitting the shared risk of a joint venture against the low-commitment strategy of exporting. When a 9-mark or 15-mark question asks you to assess ways of entering international markets, you have to weigh these up carefully. Exporting minimizes your upfront investment, sure, but it leaves you highly vulnerable to exchange rate fluctuations and sudden tariffs. Joint ventures drastically reduce that local operational risk because your partner actually knows the terrain. But on the flip side, you have to share the profits and potentially risk major conflicts over strategic control. So how do you actually build a high-scoring AO4 evaluation based on the mark schemes? Well, to achieve top marks, you absolutely cannot just list facts from the textbook. You must accurately weigh the arguments for each entry method. You have to relate the strategy directly to the specific market context provided in your case study. Dig into the analysis of the trade-off between financial risk and operational control. And most importantly, you need to reach a coherent and convincing final judgment. You must take a stand, say which strategy is genuinely better for that specific business scenario, and clearly explain the why behind it. I really love this quote to summarize our thinking. Customers buy the product, not the strategy, but strategy ensures the product fits the customer. It perfectly hits the nail on the head. Remember, while the mechanics of globalization, shifting exchange rates, and entry methods are highly complex, your ultimate goal as a business student is to ensure the business provides real value to real people in new markets. The strategy is just the invisible engine making that delivery possible. I'll leave you with this final thought to really test your understanding of what we've covered today. When looking at a business case study, ask yourself, based on their entry method and their globalization efforts, will their global strategy actually conquer the new market? Or will they fail to adapt and just become another victim of strategic drift? Mastering this concept means you've mastered the absolute core of international marketing. Keep reviewing these concepts and I'll catch you in the next explainer.